What is up, TFA fam? How are all of you doing? Thank you for joining us. Kicking things up here with my guy Robby Jeffries, half of the known TFA Dino Show. Figured, with most of the fantasy relevant pro days out of the way, figured we'd get back together. We already did part one of this where we recapped every pro day all the way from Kansas through Western Michigan. I think it was up until like March 27th. So basically the entire month of March we already did. That is on podcast only. So you can head over there and check those out if you want. On that one, we were joined by Tom and Christian. Tonight, it's just a dynamic duo. It's just us two coming at you, kicking facts.
Yeah, and I'm ready. We don't have Tom. We don't have Christian. That's okay.
Who needs him?
Who needs him? I mean, he is the grape juice god. The Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I mean, he's got his notoriety, but new kid on the block. Give him a day off. Let the boys roll.
Let the boys roll. Indeed. So let's just jump into this, man. We're going to start things off here with our guy CJ Lang, his boy out of Boston College, and that is tight end Hunter Long. Came in at 6'5", 253, had a 32.5-inch vert, 122-inch broad jump. That put him in the 87th percentile for the broad. Had a pretty decent 40, ran between a 4.65 and a 4.7. Put him with a 65th percentile speed score. His agility numbers were not great. Both of those were 40th percentile or worse, but he does have a 69th percentile dominator rating and an 80th percentile breakout age. I don't know if you've gotten any eyes on Hunter Long yet, but to me, he's kind of just like one of those like really steady. That there's nothing that necessarily jumps off the page to you when you watch him. He can go up and get it. He is a nice red zone weapon, but I think he's just one of those guys who's going to end up having a pretty nice career as far as tight ends go. Wouldn't surprise me if he had a couple tight end 1 years, down the road. But just one of those guys who's just really steady at everything. Probably the second best blocker after Pat Freiermuth in this class. So just one of those names to kind of keep in mind especially if you're like in a 2 tight end league, obviously, or a tight end premium. One of those guys to snag in like the 3rd or 4th round, depending on how tight end hungry your league is.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that, he's not the most athletic, but he's athletic enough, right? And I completely agree. He has that kind of career arc, maybe like a Kyle Rudolph, maybe upside. He gets like a Jason Witten type of role where he just kind of puts in the work and he comes as pro and just year after year kind of puts up solid numbers. So I can see that from him. I think maybe that's the higher side, but Kyle Rudolph is a guy I kind of liken him to in terms of his athleticism. Good, not great. Right in there at tight end 4 for me right now in the rookie tight end rankings.
If you want to talk about somebody who does have great athleticism, let's look no further, or tested athleticism anyway. Let's look no further than wide receiver Nico Collins out of Michigan. Came in at 6'4", 215, so one of these bigger bodied receivers. Had a 37.5-inch vert, that's 74th percentile, 125-inch broad jump, 76th percentile. Had a 4.42 40, even whenever you adjust that like Player Profiler does. That still gives him an 89th percentile speed score. Short shuttle, not great, but he did have a sub 7-second 3-cone, put him in the 79th percentile. With the Michigan passing game, leaves a lot to be desired, but he does have an 80th percentile breakout age, 92nd percentile yards per reception in college, and a 94th percentile catch radius between his 97th percentile arm length and his vertical jump. So this is one of those instances for me anyway. Robby, not sure how many of these guys you've watched or not, but he's another one of these guys who the testing doesn't necessarily match what I saw on tape. Like, he has this really good athleticism, but a lot of his catches are contested catches, and he's good at that, right? Like, he's good at that, but you would think someone with his size and speed combo, he'd be able to separate a little bit more. Maybe he just needs a little bit more fine tuning at the next level. But he, we're going to talk about a lot of these guys, kind of dart throw wide receivers. If you want to take a dart throw on him, third, fourth round, by all means go for it. But he's someone who these numbers don't necessarily match up with what I saw on film.
Yeah, man, he's such an intriguing prospect. And I feel like we see this out of Michigan year in, year out, 5-star prospects coming in, Jim Harbaugh offense. They just are there. They're not popping you with these big numbers. And then they come out and you're like, well, look at this athleticism. But wait. How is he not just dominating 70 receptions, 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns? Like, this type of athlete should have that type of production in college. You're right. You hit it on the head. He needs refinement. I did dive into Nico Collins just because I consistently saw him mocked in like the second round. I don't know if you've noticed this, Cody, but like whenever I've been reading mocks, I kind of look at the fantasy players, and Nico Collins is sneaking in there second round, third round on like every mock. I'm like, what? Like, this is wild. So I have to get my eyes on this guy. And yeah, he has just got that speed size combo, contested catch guy. I think he's 6'4", 220, somewhere around there. But he just needs work with his route running. This is probably going to be a project player, I think we saw it kind of with Colin Johnson, right? 6'6" guy out of Texas that goes to the Jaguars. He doesn't really do anything for the first half of the season. And then you see him start to get some flashes, get some end zone targets, gets a couple touchdowns. I can see a similar track here from Nico Collins. And man, if he gets some draft capital like second or third round, which I think would be wild, you're going to see him shoot up a little bit more. So I'm interested to see actually where he lands. Maybe not specifically with team, but like where that draft capital lands, if it's day 2 or later.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he's going to get the Donovan Peoples-Jones treatment, right? Like I think he was another name who was mocked pretty highly and ended up falling until mid day 3 was like a 5th, 6th round pick, something like that. Like he has that feel. And you were mentioning some of the other receivers like Tariq Black, same thing. 4-star, 5-star prospect, tested. His testing numbers crushed it, but like not the production to show for it. And you're damn right, Walito, Robby, and Cody are running the show today. Don't need Kev. Who needs them? We already talked about Tom and Christian. Throw Kev in there too. Who needs him? We don't need him. We're going to keep moving on. An interesting running back. Again, one of these guys that has the athleticism for Michigan, never really put it together on the field. So Chris Evans is going to be 24. He's going to turn 24 this year. I think he's like 23 and a half right now. 2019, he was suspended the entire year for academic violations, but he came in at 5'11", 211 pounds, had a 40.5-inch vert, 127-inch broad jump, threw up 20 reps on the bench, ran a mid 4.4, 40, had a 4.14 short shuttle, a 6.56 3-cone. That all comes out to an 85th percentile SPARQ score. But his best season rushing the ball was only 685 yards on 135 attempts. So he's just kind of one of those names, I guess, just to keep in mind. You're not going to have to draft him. He'll be a day 3, maybe UDFA kind of guy, but just one of those guys to kind of keep in the back of your head, especially once, waivers start for dynasty purposes, kind of keeping an eye to see who does pick him up and if he lands on a thin depth chart. But like that's just one of those guys. The numbers pop off the screen. Always looking for running backs that have that kind of athleticism, and he was one of them, but does not have the production that you would want to see. And again, turning 24 in his rookie year is a tough pill to swallow, especially at running back.
Right. If he's 24 now, he's probably a day 3 guy in the draft. And then, if he doesn't start year 1, we're looking at a guy that is going to be 25, 26 before he's even maybe productive for a team. So this is one of the longest of dart throws for sure.
Yeah. There was a small school wide receiver out of South Dakota State, Cade Johnson. He was at the Senior Bowl. Saw he had a couple of nice reps. Came in at 6 foot, 184. His testing numbers were, a little disappointing, I think, especially because I've seen a lot of people that are, kind of high on him and talking about him being like a sleeper in this class. I have yet to get a full dive into him. I've just kind of seen some highlights and some clips just passing through, but 35-inch vert, 41st percentile. He had a 9th percentile broad jump, 51st percentile 40-yard dash. Again, small school guy. He does have the 89th percentile dominator rating, which is something you want to see from these small school guys. You want to see them dominate their competition. He did that. I think he has a later breakout age as well. I think it's in his 20s, if I'm remembering correctly. So, again, with wide receiver being as deep as it is this year, not someone that you're going to have to spend a lot of capital on, if any, maybe, fourth-round pick. I think in the rookie mock drafts that we've done that you've set up, Robbie, I don't think he's been selected in either of them. So
no, this is a guy that's, again, probably going undrafted in your rookie drafts. I haven't dove into a lot of his tape, but I do know the name. Come from South Dakota myself. He's at the rival school. I went to USD. He's from SDSU, so we do keep an eye on them. And he's a guy that did really well, like you said, dominated the competition. But the biggest competition they're playing is NDSU, right? Trey Lance's squad up there. So
QB3.
Yeah. Oh, QB3. Well, let's get into it. So yeah, Kade Johnson's probably just a slot wide receiver that probably has a low ceiling. Hunter Renfrow kind of comes to mind, late round guy. So we'll see where he lands.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that his listed size was 6'1", 184. I kind of thought from what I saw, like I said, just on surface level, I thought he played a little bit bigger than that. So I was a little surprised to see that's all he was listed at. Moving things on, Virginia Tech is up next. Running back Khalil Herbert, someone that I have not got eyes on yet at all. So I hope you have something to add in here, Robbie, because I got nada. But he came in at 5'9", 210, gives him a 70 percentile BMI for the BMI freaks out there. Had a 33-inch vert, 115-inch broad jump. Both of those numbers were below the 30th percentile. But he does come in with a 4.46 40, 77th percentile, and he does have a 66th percentile 3-cone at 6.96 seconds. So any thoughts on Herbert?
Yeah, Khalil Herbert was at Kansas. For those who haven't followed his career, he was at Kansas and then was a grad transfer to Virginia Tech. And, he did really well, especially his sophomore year with a really poor Kansas offense. Obviously, we know Kansas has struggled at football offensively and defensively for a while, but he was a bright shining spot there for a little bit. And then Puka kind of came in and stole a lot of his thunder, and they kind of split time going forward there. But, he does have decent burst. The thing with him is he doesn't have a dynamic trait or a dynamic analytic. He only has 34 receptions in his 5 seasons of playing. So, again, we're talking about an older back coming in. He's going to be 23, probably 24 maybe. So when we have these older backs that don't have a dynamic trait, I just don't see how they fit in. Some people really like him. I know that for sure. So some people have him up there, running back 6, running back 7. So there are the fans out there. I'm mediocre on him. There's nothing that stands out. If you don't have anything that stands out, I can't pound the table for you.
Makes sense. Someone, you just mentioned his burst, and, we were talking about with Nico Collins, the testing maybe not lining up with what we saw on tape. I just want to throw this name out real quick. Tight end Noah Gray out of Duke. He was someone who, whenever Kevin and I did the tight end show, kind of looking at someone outside of like the top 5, maybe someone to keep an eye on. I only watched, maybe like a game or 2 of his, didn't really dive deep, but something that popped off the screen to me when I was watching him was his burst once he, did get the ball in his hands. He had a 4.55 40-yard dash at 6'3", 240, puts him in the 90th percentile for his 40, for that 40-yard time, and then had a 6.83 3-cone, which is 94th percentile. So maybe just one of these guys to keep an eye on. Not going to have to draft him unless you're in a 2 tight end league. I think even in your tight end premium leagues, probably not going to have to draft him either. Unless your your rookie draft goes into like the 5th round. Other than that, just someone who to keep an eye on. Didn't have a lot of production, didn't have a lot of opportunity. I think the most targets he saw was like 72. I want to say maybe his junior year, if I'm remembering correctly. So one of those guys where it was nice to see that the testing numbers kind of lined up with what I was seeing on tape, and just in terms of his bursts. And obviously, whenever we're looking at tight ends, we want the tight ends that are a little bit more athletic. And moving on to running back Dion Jackson, 5'11", 218. So he definitely has the prerequisite size at the running back position. Had a 68th percentile vert, a 78th percentile broad jump, an 87th percentile 40, ran a 4.41. Again, 5'11", 218. The agility drills were not kind to him. Both of those were under the 35th percentile. But add all those up, like I said, the 5'11", 218, and the 4.4 40, even whenever you adjust that, like Player Profiler does, that's still a 90th percentile speed score. So he's a running back who I remember last year seeing on some like deep Devy lists, like someone to take, in your Devies, if 3rd, 4th round, something like that. The C2C leagues, those maniacs. I don't really know much about his game, but again, whenever someone is 5'11", 218, has that 4.4 40, someone to at least kind of keep in mind, as especially once we hit the draft. If he doesn't get any draft capital, forget it. Throw him out. But someone to kind of just keep on the last page of your scouting notes, just to kind of see where they land and what kind of draft capital they get.
Yeah, I think that's a note to just have with any of these guys. The testing numbers shouldn't be something that moves them super far up or down your draft, because again, we're talking about it's not the
Right.
combine. They're all at their pro days. I personally don't trust all of these numbers, to be honest with you. So just take everything with a grain of salt. But when we do see some of these numbers that show good athleticism, again, I think that's what you're looking for in these later guys. Like if you're looking for, hey, I need to shoot my shot with one of these guys, that's where I might go for a player like this over Khalil Herbert, because there is a defining trait. Like, how can he win? This is how he wins. He gets to the edge. He can get a one cut, shoot through the gap, and get you some chunk yardage. So that's just something to note when we talk about these players. Do they have a defining trait that can be productive if they get the shot?
Another athletic running back coming out of Louisiana Lafayette, and that is running back Elijah Mitchell. Have seen some hype with him. I know there's a couple people. I think David Berger, shout out to Berg, aka Carl Jr. I think he is a fan of Elijah Mitchell, if I'm not mistaken. But he comes in at 5'10", 201. So on the smaller side as far as running backs go, but 38-inch vertical, 81st percentile, 128-inch broad jump, that is a 93rd percentile, ran a sub 4.4 40, came in at 4.38, had a 72nd percentile short shuttle and a 71st percentile 3-cone, gave him a 74th percentile spark score over on Player Profiler. He is someone that I did get a surface look on. I was slightly disappointed when I watched him, just because like the hype that was coming with him. Heard about how he was like super athletic. Obviously, he tested out that way. Maybe it was just some of the games that I watched, but I didn't necessarily see that. Like I thought he was fine. Maybe I was holding him to a higher standard. That's definitely something I need to work on when I'm watching these guys. I go into it thinking I'm going to be wowed, and then I'm not, and I'm like, nah. I don't want him.
Tough to impress. You're tough to impress, baby.
Hey man, we have high standards over here. You know what I mean? Gotta raise that bar. But no, someone who I think can at least carve out a role at the next level. And again, another one of these guys. I do think Mitchell gets drafted. A day 3 guy, but I do think he is someone to keep your eye on. And I think someone a probably 4th round rookie pick, depending on whether, one QB is super flex, but someone to definitely keep an eye on. Have you got any eyes on Mitchell yet?
Yeah, but man, I need to dive back into the tape after this. Surface level, like you said, and I really like how where I had the most questions about him. he showed something in the pro day where I want to dive back in, right? Like I felt like I didn't see that athleticism on the tape. Like I was questioning the wiggle in tight spaces, the phone booth, moves that he can have. And I was questioning the burst and he did a lot in his pro day to kind of raise my eyebrow, can he improve that draft stock? And so I'm going to dive back in. I've got him bookmarked after this recording. So yeah, this is a guy that is intriguing. And I've heard the term potential James Robinson of this class. So we'll see after this pro day if he still goes undrafted, but I think he might sneak into day 3 here. He was part of that trio of a backfield with the Raging Cajuns. So they had just a gluttony of running back talent there. But now he's kind of separating himself, I think, with some of these testing numbers.
Also, can we stop with the next James? Like literally nobody saw that coming. You can't say who's going to be the next one because we didn't know he was going to be the next anything. Can we please stop with that?
I feel bad that I brought it up. I tried to bring it up in mock sarcasm, but I realized that this will go out on podcasts, and so people couldn't see my emotions with it. But yeah, the whole next James Robinson thing is already been a thing that's I shouldn't have even continued to allow it existence because when I get teed off about some kind of tweet format or something, I just go off. I won't acknowledge it. I'll block you for a hot minute if you do it to me. But that's something that it's not going to be a thing. And even further, he's so rare. This is diving into the Kev Robby argument, but he's so rare that there's the chances of it happening in back-to-back draft classes less than 1.
It just like no one saw. Like we can't say anyway. We're gonna end up going off on a tangent. Someone again who the tape didn't measure up with, didn't equal what they measured out with, but on the flip side, and that was tight end Brevin Jordan had a very disappointing pro day. Did not get that that home cooking, that home treatment for his times. 6'3", 247, a 4.69 40. I mean, still for tight end purposes, puts him in the 65th percentile, but just kind of disappointing overall. I mean, his jumps, his best one was his broad in the 51st percentile. But I hope, this slides him down other people's boards. I don't think it will. I think with this year with no combine and no standardized testing, I don't think that this is going to move too many people around how it would in normal years. But I kind of hope it does because that just doesn't that doesn't add up for me whatsoever. He's one of these guys who I think his athleticism in terms of the tight end pops more than someone like a Pat Freiermuth, but Freiermuth is more well-rounded. But with Brevin Jordan, that was just something where when that came out, you're definitely disappointed with it. But I tight end 3 for me, I'm not moving him. Hunter Long isn't coming up above him, even though he might have had some better testing numbers. But for me, I'm not moving Brevin Jordan.
No, I'm not either. I mean, I think we're disappointed just because of the expectation we had for him, right? We build him.
And how he looks on tape.
Right. We've just built him differently. And so he comes in, he doesn't quite have the numbers. And so people are a little down put from that, but he was fine. He wasn't slow. He just wasn't Kyle Pitts fast. And I think people saw that kind of athleticism from him. So no, he improved each year. He was in the ACC. I mean, he's playing good teams here. And he's still tight end 3 for me. So didn't do anything crazy to improve his stock and try and catch, Pat at tight end 2, but didn't do anything to lose too much ground, in my opinion.
Now, moving on to, I think we should get a sponsorship from the school with how much we have been pumping them up. Moving on to UNC, let's dive in. First name right off the board, wide receiver Diane Brown. I won't dive too far into him. I have a profile up on the YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. Where I really dove in and broke down his recruitment, production, all that stuff. But he comes in at 6'1", 189, had a 79th percentile vert, 89th percentile broad jump, ran a 4.46 40, puts him in the 63rd percentile. His short shuttle left a lot to be desired. That was just a 24th percentile. but redeemed himself a little bit with a 3-cone sub 7 second, came in at 6.87, 65th percentile. He's someone who I think can do more than what UNC asks him to do. Like, I don't think we should pigeonhole him into just a vertical down the field kind of threat. Like, I do think he can expand upon that and build upon his game, be worked in the short and intermediate ranges. Like I said, we're not going to dive too far into this between the James Robinson talk and this. We could definitely be here all night. But Diane Brown is someone who I don't not even to call him a sleeper, but someone who's kind of just like getting like lost in the mix and kind of just getting jumbled in with a bunch of different names because this wide receiver class is so good. But definitely someone that you need to pay attention to. I can't remember, maybe it's Daniel Jeremiah or one of those bigger, draft media kind of guys. And was talking about the potential for Dion Brown to be like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 off the board. So, maybe being talked up in some NFL circles, but someone who I really like. Robbie, I know you started diving into him. Quick thoughts on Dion before we move on.
Well, yeah, man, he did well here. I mean, he just had like an overall good day. He seemed to check every box, right? And again, I'm not the person that's trying to weigh too much or too little out of this, but there wasn't a takeaway where I'm like, okay, here's something to be concerned about. He just checked every single box. So I agree. I see a lot of analysts have him up there, in the early second, and some people have him farther down. I don't want to call him a polarizing guy, but he does get lost in the shuffle because there's just so many of these day 2, day 3 wide receivers, and they could go any which way, right? It depends on the scheme. It depends on what that team needs at that time. So I definitely think he's a name to keep our eye on and see how this draft shakes out. But he definitely did not hurt himself. I think he helped himself with his pro day, unlike his partner in crime there, Mr. Daz. Take it away with his pro day.
Yeah, this is, again, something, the same thing as Brevin Jordan. Like, I don't think these testing numbers match up with his tape, but definitely didn't do himself any favors with this. He did not get the like I said, the home, like the home school, the home cooking here for him to help him out. 5'10", 190, so kind of, pigeonholed into that slot role at the next level. 46th percentile broad, 30th percentile vertical, 46th percentile broad, a 4.59 40 at 5'10", 190. That's a 16th percentile. Had a 19th percentile short shuttle, 3rd percentile 3-cone. Like that day did not go well for Daz Newsome. But whenever you watch him, man, he pops off the screen. So maybe just had a bad day. What I mean? Like, I think that's something we also, we always need to keep in mind with all these testing numbers is like, believe it or not, at the end of the day, they're human. Like, nerves, bad day, didn't sleep. Like, I don't know what it was, but this does not match up for me. He was someone who I think I took in one of our rookie mocks in like the 4th round, I want to say. Just one of these kind of, with the NFL moving to basically, 11 personnel as like almost every offense's base set. Like, you need these slot receivers. So like, it's not the knock that it used to be. And I thought Daz Newsome would fill that role pretty well. But now with these testing numbers being as poor as they are, you're looking at a day 3 guy to begin with. And now he's going to be sliding to the bottom of day 3. Have you watched Daz at all?
I have not. And this is, I think, is just concerning because it's not so much what it does in our minds, but it's what it does in NFL exec minds. And like it or not, like, I've always been someone who's like, I don't care how fast someone runs in a straight line for 40 yards because they don't do it in the NFL all that much. But you know who does care about it? NFL draft executives. Like, we saw DJ Chark absolutely vaulted up to what to get picked early 2nd round, like 30 something, just because of a amazing 40 time. And I think that's like all he did at the combine. He might've done a couple other drills, but it was basically that.
Miles Boykin.
Yep. Miles Boykin, same thing. We see Chase Claypool do that as well. And he was probably a day 3 guy. And then you have that size speed combo, which some of these guys are granted, you want to see that they are good players. But But if you don't have that, the reverse can now happen where you're just off some teams' draft boards if you don't hit a certain criteria. Like if he was I think he was right before 4.6 for his 40. If you hit 4.6, I think a lot of teams kind of just move you down or off. It's like been Jarvis Landry, Keenan Allen, and the list gets pretty thin after that.
Yeah, especially at his size too, is definitely disappointing. Moving on to Kev's boy, Javonte Williams, came in at 5'10", 212. I was a little surprised to see 212 for him, honestly. A lot of people were making a big stink about his 40 time, came in at 4.55. Like, that is completely fine. Like, I don't know why everybody was so worried about that 40 time. Everything else went well for him as well. 68th percentile vertical, 78th percentile broad jump, 91st percentile short shuttle, and a 64th percentile 3-cone. I didn't think he lacked wiggle at all, but like these numbers make it seem like he has a lot more than kind of what I saw on tape. Definitely not stiff. Not saying that he doesn't have wiggle or lateral agility or anything like that, but like 91st percentile short shuttle, 64th percentile 3-cone. I was like, all right. But the thing that really stuck out to me, like I said, was just the 212-pound weigh-in. I definitely thought we were going to be seeing him in that 218 and like 222 range. So for him to come in at 212 is a little surprising. But RB2 for me, not going to move him down based on this. And Etienne was not overtaking him from RB3 either.
I didn't know you had him at RB2. That's insightful. Yeah, so he's interesting because he doesn't run like 212. He runs like he's 220, man. Like he's just absolutely going to town, bringing the thunder, right? We have this Michael Carter Lightning, Javonte Williams Thunder backfield, right? But also he is super, like, I don't want to keep on using the word burst, but he just has this sudden quickness, this short area quickness to him. And you see that, right? He has good lower body strength. The broad jump was good. He put up the bench press. He has the strength, but also you just hit on the short shuttle. Like he gets going quickly. And I think we saw that, and we'll dive into it with Michael Carter too. But every single run from this UNC offense, it wasn't like their O-line's obviously good, but it wasn't like they were like just blowing people out of the water. They're like running at full speed, breaking tackles at the line of scrimmage and getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards on plays that most running backs are just going to get 4 or 5 because they just aren't getting out of the gates that quickly. So both him and Michael Carter have that really, really sudden quickness just to get there. They don't have the long speed, which I think matches up on tape. I think both of these guys, when you talk about who has performed like their tape is, both these guys for me did a lot of the things that their testing numbers said they should do.
Yeah, for sure. Javonte is just a straight up wrecking ball whenever he gets going. You alluded to it a little bit. His running mate Michael Carter, someone that both of us are high on, came in at 5'8", 201. Not a surprise because that's what he came in. Or I'm sorry, I should say 5'7" and 7/8. Don't want to give him too much credit, but I think the Senior Bowl came in at 202. He was 201 here, so it was good to see him hold that weight whenever that was one of the bigger question marks with him because he is on the smaller side. A 4.5 40 yard dash, 62nd percentile. Had to one up Javonte Williams. Came in with a 3.98 short shuttle, which put him in the 98th percentile, and then he had a 90th percentile 3-cone. So, I mean, it, again, wasn't gonna really move him on our boards. I think we both have him at RB4, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have him before? Or do you have Sermon ahead of him?
No, I got him right in front of Sermon.
Okay. So RB4 for both of us. It's a shame we're probably going to end up moving him down after draft capital and landing spot come in because, man, he's just a lot of fun to watch. And, we broke down his film. You can go watch that on the YouTube channel where we sat down and watched one of his games and kind of talked about what we liked. I did a profile on him, so I don't want to dive too deep into him here. But definitely someone you need to keep your eye on, kind of see where he lands. If he could land with like San Fran in a 2-back kind of system, I think that'd be best for him. You're not going to give someone who's 201 pounds, 23 carries week in, week out. It's just not going to happen. But I absolutely think he could be, not even necessarily a 2, but a 1B and a running back kind of duo there. He's someone who, if he were 215 pounds, something like that, 210 even, I might have him up at RB2, because I do think like his game and the nuances of the running back position, his skill level is up there with the rest of them. But unfortunately, his size is going to hold him back. And for fantasy purposes, if you're not getting 65-70% of the carries, it's going to be really hard for you to be anything more than a back end RB2.
Yeah, man. I mean, you hit on it. We love watching this guy's tape. If you just want to have a fun time watching somebody play football, that's Michael Carter, man. He had so many just electric runs and just does so many things with the football. I saw something tweeted out by PFF Draft. That's the college version of PFF. And he has 29 runs over 20 yards in the last 2 seasons. Like, just insane. That's the most in college football over the last 2 years. And he's that guy that Travis Etienne weighed in better and has just this longer profile. We've been waiting on him to come out for a while. He's like just that little bit watered down version where I don't see the strength there with him that I want to in a full, like you're saying, a 3-down back. I don't see that strength with Michael Carter, but I do just see a really, really good football player. We've talked about this before. I can see him having an Austin Eckler type role. And then the guy that just got released by the Bengals, Giovanni Bernard, that was a name I didn't even think about, but I can see him kind of having that role where he can do it. It's probably not a guy you want having 250 plus touches in a season, but man, if he goes to maybe your Steelers or something like that and pairs up with a Benny Snell or something like that, and he's actually kind of maybe that 1A guy, gosh, I just love that, man. I know Kev's going to throw a fit when he hears this because there's no Anthony McFarland talk, but he can get all the way out with that. I really hope he has a good landing spot. I'm going to get my hopes up, even though like you're saying, I know we shouldn't. We're going to have our hearts broken. He's just going to land in some horrendous spot, and we're going to have to be patient. But this is a football player that I think can be very productive and has that electric juice, right, that you want. Like, who can be productive for me and get big chunks, who can catch passes. This is a player that you want in fantasy, and you're going to get him with a discount because he's probably not going, round 1, round 2. He's probably a round 3 or lower guy.
For sure. I think for rookie mock purposes, he's kind of going like the back end of round 2. So if you can kind of snag him there, and these guys are all going to shuffle around too. Someone like the next guy we're going to be talking about, who he's been all over the place. You just mentioned him as your RB5, and that is Trey Sermon, running back out of Ohio State via Oklahoma. Came in at 6 foot 215, 77th percentile vert at 37 inches, 125-inch broad jump. That was 87th percentile. Had the 4.57 40, which was a little disappointing, but again, mid 4.5 for a running back, especially 6 foot 215. Like, that's fine. Not going to knock him for that. A 50th percentile short shuttle, but he did have a nice 3 cone, put him in the 87th percentile at 6.83. I'll let you talk about Sermon because I know this is your boy.
Yeah, you know how I just referenced maybe a little bit watered down version, Etienne going down to Michael Carter. I'd say the same thing maybe for Javonte going down to Trey Sermon, right? Like, Trey Sermon didn't put it together for all 4 years, but he has just a lot of thunder that he brings. Lower body strength is there. You see it in the broad jump. You see it, when he runs, he's a one cut downhill, man, and he gets going. He's going to take you places. The burst is there with the 3 cone. I know people have been questioning, does he have the burst? Does he have the vision? But when he puts his foot in the ground and gets upfield, he's taking people for a ride. And I think in the same way that Javonte does as well. But yeah, again, that broad jump shows his contact balance. I think that's a really good trait that he has. Hip flexibility. He can move around a little bit. Again, that long speed is not there. We didn't see it on tape. We didn't think it was going to be there. Same with Javonte, same with Michael Carter. You can still be a good explosive back and not be able to outrun the safety. That's okay. And so that's why I don't want to get caught up in the 40 times, as long as it's not, a 4.7. You and I were talking, we talked about this in the first draft day. LJ Scott, Michigan State. That was that running back that people were hyping up. And then he goes out and runs like a 4.7 40. And we're like, oh, that was fun while it lasted. So, he's fine. 4.57. That's okay. I'm excited to see where he goes. He's starting to get some hype, man. I know you brought him up in one of our chats. Matt Waldman's onto him. I've seen a couple other people have him in the top 5. So people are starting to come around to Robbie's way of thinking. I know you're not there yet, but I hope to win you over if he goes in the top 100, late day 3, maybe really early day 4. I think he sneaks in the top 100 picks.
My thing with him this whole time has been like, you can take like his 10 best runs and put them up there with Najee and Javonte. Like, he belongs in that upper echelon. But there's just so much just like, nah. like outside of that, like that's just something that just like man, I just want to see that more consistently. Like I said, his best runs, you can put him up there. I do like him, but just in terms of his consistency, like that's something that just kind of has me a little bit lower on him. I kind of have him like cycling around in that 5 spot with like Gainwell and Kylan Hills, kind of like that kind of range. I'm not totally set on, but you mentioned the Steelers for Michael Carter. I think Sermon to the Steelers would be a good fit, and kind of fits in that, like you were saying, like end of round 3. I could see him going there. There's been a bunch of talk in these Pittsburgh circles talking about wanting to put more of an emphasis on the run game, and I think Trey Sermon would automatically be the best running back in Pittsburgh if they were to draft him. So, like with a lot of these guys, landing spot, draft capital. Landing spot, draft capital is going to, shake up, these guys who are outside the top 3. Like I said, Michael Carter probably going to fall. Jamar Jefferson, some we'll talk about here in a little bit. Like all these guys are going to be up for grabs after the top 3, depending on where they land and how early or how late that they're taken. Someone who has been mocked in the first round pretty often for NFL purposes that I do not understand whatsoever. Tutu Atwell, wide receiver out of Louisville, 5'9", 155.
Insane. The 0 percentile, not the 1 percentile, the 0 percentile.
Yes. And, obviously 4.42 40, so a smaller guy with the speed. Yeah, he is a dynamic player, right? But I just can't wrap my head around taking someone 5'9", 155 just because he's fast. I mean,
is he fast? He's 155 pounds and he ran 4.42. Like at some point that weight adjusted. Like shouldn't he be running John Ross like 4.27 or something? Right.
Like I said, dynamic guy, get the ball in his hands. But the first round draft capital, I just do not understand.
That's that 40, not staying. Yeah, that's done.
I hope so. I don't understand. Like imagine wanting to put Tutu Atwell in the first and then knocking Rondell Moore.
Yes.
Like couldn't be me. But anyway, that is a 79th percentile 40, obviously unadjusted for the pro day time. Short shuttle put him in the 75th percentile, in the 3-cone in the 61st percentile. So I mean, he's someone who kind of falls in the Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Rondell Moore kind of, bucket where he has to go to the right place, right? Like he needs to get the right landing spot in order to get the most out of him. But first round for the NFL draft, get the fuck up out of here with that. Like I don't understand it. If it happens, I don't know. I'll eat a piece of paper. I don't know. I'll drink a shoe. I don't know. I'll do something. But it's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. Sounds like you're on the same page as me. So unless you have anything to add.
No, I was down to see what other bets we could have, and then I'm hyping him up, trying to get him in the first round. I want to see you, quote unquote, drink a shoe. I am all in on that nonsense. So no, Tutu Atwell, he's trending holiday size. I don't know how he is fantasy productive for your teams outside of kick returning.
Another smaller guy here coming in from Louisville, running back Javion Hawkins, 5'8", 183, again, has a speed 4.46 40, 77th percentile, and his short shuttle and his 3-cone were both 61st or 62nd percentile there. he's someone who, kind of saw him being talked up a little bit early on in the process and kind of throughout the year. I know he had some bigger games, but someone I personally, again, did not get it with him. Not someone I'm necessarily looking to take, even like in the 4th round. Again, 5'8", 183, running back. Like, he's going to have a very particular niche that he's going to have to, carve out for himself with a very particular team. And that's just not someone I'm looking to draft.
Yeah, I mean, we're being snobs, but I think you have to be a snob with sizes, right? At a certain point, we're questioning Michael Carter's size at 202. This guy's 20 pounds lighter. So, these guys just aren't big enough for me to want to take a swing on them. Could they be that 1 in a million? Absolutely, but I'm out on both of those prospects.
Now, someone for Louisville that I will potentially take a swing on the 4th round, wide receiver Dez Fitzpatrick came in at 6'2", 208. Vert wasn't great, 41st percentile. 40-yard dash, though, was pretty nice. Had a 4.43 40, and that is in the 74th percentile. Agility drill is not great, but maybe a red zone weapon. I know he's someone who excited a lot of people in the Devy circles early on when he was playing with Lamar Jackson. Kind of just things did not fall in his favor after that, but still someone just to kind of keep an eye on anytime you have that size speed combination. Like I said, 6'2", 208 in a mid 4.4 40.
Yeah, he's a guy that I will turn on the tape for. There's a gluttony of wide receivers this year, so have not gotten down to some of these lower guys, but he is on the list to get to. I like to see that time from him.
Someone who we have watched that we really don't need to dive into, a very exciting prospect, cemented himself as the wide receiver 1. Tom, fuck out with Jalen Waddle, a wide receiver 1. I'm glad you're finally coming around to it, but that is Jamar Chase out of LSU. Came in at 6 foot 201 and just had an absolutely absurd day for LSU's pro day. 96 percentile vert, 96 percentile broad jump, a 97th percentile bench, put up 23 reps, 89th percentile 40, came in at 4.38. So even if you adjust that, a mid 4.4 for someone who, I don't necessarily think I saw that level of speed on tape. Like, I didn't think he was slow by any means, but having him come in at that mid 4.4 was really nice to see. And then a 97th percentile short shuttle and a 41st percentile 3-cone. But when those other numbers are that good, who cares?
Oh no, we better drop him down our list because of the 3-cone. Little DK Metcalf action. Better drop him down the list, baby. Yeah, if this guy does not hit, it is an anomaly. Is he real? Like, is he for? He's just a tank, and he is so athletic. He plays like he's 6'3". Like, when you watch him and then you actually see his size, and you're like, oh, you're 6 foot. You're not 6'3".
220.
6'3". Like you would think he's that size, and like you've been saying, his numbers were absolutely astronomical. He plays like that, even faster speed than I think you were noting that you see on tape. So, just what's not to love? I think this draft, that's what makes this 2021 draft class so exciting. You have that Kyle Pitts, you have that Jamar Chase, you have the Najee Harris, you have Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and some of these other guys to boot. Yeah. You have a little bit of everything. So this is a one draft where some people are starting like, I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about these guys. I'm pumped up because if you have a sucky team in Dynasty, you have a sucky team, you're looking to get some rebuild. Whatever position you need, man, this draft has it. It has it all.
Absolutely. I'm curious to get your thoughts on his teammate Terrace Marshall, because I don't think I've heard your thoughts on him, but someone else who, also had a really nice day for himself. Our guy Christian Welch, the great God, has been high on him from the get-go. Kev likes him a lot. I'm not sure where you sit on him, but he came in at 6'3", 205, 87th percentile vert, 76th percentile broad jump. He didn't do any of the agility drills, but he also had a 4.38 40 89th percentile. And again, with these pro day numbers, you're gonna, you could go to 3 different sites and get 3 different numbers. We're probably should have said this at the outset, but we're pulling all of these from PFF, and that's where the percentiles are coming from as well. But give me your thoughts on Terrace Marshall before we start to kind of rattle off some of these in a more rapid fashion.
Yeah, man, this is a guy that just has, we've said it a couple times, but this is top of the top here. Speed, size, has the vertical that you noted. I honestly think Terrace Marshall might be one of these guys that we come back and say, yeah, we probably should have had him a little higher, kind of like a Chase Claypool of, yeah, we probably should have. I mean, he has everything that you like. Touchdown machine, man, just absolutely nuts with his touchdown rate. Top over the last 2 years, we put out the little guess, who has the highest touchdown rate, and he beat Jamar Chase, he beat Rashad Bateman. I think Jalen Darden was on that list. Even your guy Diane Brown, I think, was on that list too for the top 5, and he's top of the line. So yeah, he's a guy that's really exciting to watch. You have some drops. He has the dropsies a little bit, so that's something he needs to clean up. But he played the slot. He can play on the outside. He's a big guy, so he can be that bigger slot or play on the outside. I think he's going to fit for a lot of teams in the late first round. Packers, Saints, some of these other teams that people have mocked him to. Yeah, I can definitely see him being a good asset. They were like, yeah, we probably should have had him a little higher.
Do you know off the top of your head where you have him ranked?
Yeah, I'm going to guess I have him at 5 behind Smith. I'm actually the low guy with Devonta Smith. He's at 4. I think Bateman's 3, Waddle's 2, Chase is 1. So I'd have Terrace Marshall at 5.
Gotcha. Moving things on, Notre Dame tight end Tommy Tremble. I haven't gotten eyes on him yet. I know this is someone that Kev was a little excited about. I know there's been a little bit of rumblings and hype with him. But 6'3", 241, basically didn't have any production whatsoever to speak of at Notre Dame, but had a 4.6 40, 86 percentile, and did pretty well on the jumps as well. 85th percentile vertical, 87th percentile broad jump. Have you seen Tremble yet?
There, like you said, there's not a lot to see. I think he has 29 collegiate receptions. I've not gotten to him. I'm not past Hunter Long yet, so he's on the list of guys to watch just for those 2 tight end leagues. Someone who might take a couple years to develop, but hopefully you have a roster spot for him.
Stash him away on your taxi if you are tight end needy. Speaking of tight ends, again, someone we don't need to spend a lot of time on. Someone who's been the tight end 1, basically all year. Cemented that, like, we weren't going to be moving him anyway, but especially with this, with his pro day, that is Kyle Pitts. 6'6", 245, 97th percentile broad jump, 52nd percentile vert, 4.4, 440, 99th percentile, a 69th percentile short shuttle, and a 59th percentile 3 cone. I mean, whether you want to call him a wide receiver, whether you want to call him a tight end, doesn't really matter. Dude's a baller. He has the potential to go as the maybe the second, first or second non-quarterback in this draft coming up, because he is that special. So, like I said, someone we don't need to really talk about a bunch. And for rookie drafts, I mean, in a tight end premium league, again, you might be looking at him as the first non-quarterback off the board for Superflex leagues.
Yeah, he lands with Cincy at 5 overall. Oh, absolutely. Burrow coming back, I think that'd just be a fantastic landing spot. Or even Carolina there. Give my guy
anywhere.
Give my guy Sammy D another target there. So yeah, he can go anywhere. He's going to be, like you said, top 2 or 3, depending on how you have Najee and Chase there. You really can't miss.
Yeah. Someone who does not have a consensus ranking, or whether it's the NFL draft or rookie rankings or rookie ADP, then it's his teammate Kadarius Toney, one of these shifty slot kind of guys. Had himself a nice day as well. 90th percentile vert, 99th percentile broad jump, ran a 4.4 140, puts him in the 81st percentile. 49th percentile short shuttle at 4.25, and then a 64th percentile 3 cone at 6'8". I'm just now kind of getting around to like fully diving into him, but he fits that slot mold, right? Someone who you're going to want to, kind of use almost in the way of like a, not comping him to Tyreek Hill, but someone you want to use in that same manner with the sweeps and the pop passes and the screens and just getting the ball in his hand and kind of letting him do his thing. Again, not comping. Let me repeat. Not comping him to Tyreek Hill, but the kind of in the same way that you would want to use him. Have you dove in on Tony yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could. They're not the same at all with their size, but you could use him like they use Deebo Samuel. So that's a name you can say where people aren't like mind blown that you're saying the same name, Tyreek Hill with Kadarius Toney. But Deebo's used in a lot of these end around these jet sweeps, short passes, short slants, bubble screens, and that's how Kadarius Toney will probably win at the NFL level. He's still developing as a wide receiver. He's still really raw, but his athleticism's there, and I don't want to double count. We talk about never double counting. If you watch the tape with Kadarius Toney, his call to maybe being a early second, maybe even sneaking late first, which would be a little bit rich for me. But in that second round, is his athleticism. What can he do when you get the ball in his hands? So that's one thing to double check with this. Don't double count this because he also tested 99th percentile in the broad and the vertical is insane. We knew this, right? He's a shifty, kind of twitchy wide receiver that get the ball in his hand, he can roll. So I don't hate him like a lot of other people do. I kind of feel like I'm on an island, but we'll see what happens when draft day rolls around, and we'll see where his name gets called.
Yeah, I will have a profile on him coming out shortly, but there are some things to note with him, as far as his like recruitment and everything goes, and that can kind of play into why we really didn't see him produce until he 22 years old in his senior year. But definitely someone to watch where that draft capital and landing spot goes. Someone who I had literally never heard of. We had a couple of these on part 1. Again, you can go check that out on the TFA podcast. I think for the Dino show, it was like episode 24, 25, something like that. Central Florida wide receiver, Jacob Harris. Now, Robbie, I know you said you looked him up after I put him on the list here, and he's on the list because these numbers are just bonkers. 6'5", 219, 94th percentile vert, 97th percentile broad jump. Again, pro day time, I know, but even if you adjust it, again, remember, 6'5", 219. His pro day time was a 4.3940. His short shuttle did not go well, 33rd percentile, but then a 99th percentile 3 cone. I know you said you kind of looked into him a little bit, so I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about him. But, as I was going through PFF's list and, looking for the running backs and receivers and tight ends, and I saw this, I just went, holy shit. So tell me about Mr. Harris here.
This guy's bonkers, right? Like you just see this and you're like, Jacob Harris. I follow the draft here, and I've never heard of this guy, right? And
not once.
6'5", 220. So this guy commits. So like you, never heard of him before. Had to look him up. Like I can't just see these testing numbers and then we get on here and be like, I haven't checked him out. I need to dive into his tape. No, I got to figure out this guy's story because this is nuts. He commits to Florida Gulf Coast to play soccer there for just a hot minute. Yeah, imagine a 6'5", 220 kid running around a soccer pitch. Not going to happen. He decides, nope, not for me. I'm going to transfer. I'm going to go to Western Kentucky. I'm going to walk onto the football team. He does that. Then he decides, you know what, not loving it here. I want to go south. I'm going to walk onto UCF. So he walks onto UCF. He gets a scholarship after 6 months. And he actually really doesn't get actual playing time until age 22, which would have been his redshirt junior year. And then he kind of does a little bit here in his senior year. But man, what an interesting prospect. Obviously raw because we're not getting a ton of starts and a ton of snaps until age 22 and 23. Now he comes out. I don't know, man. I need to see more of him. I need to hear more about him. that size with that speed is just bonkers to me. That's a guy I'll bet, we were in a couple auction leagues together. I'll throw a couple bucks down just to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just one of these guys, just, huge dart throws, but that kind of size speed is going to get you noticed by NFL teams, let alone, us two just rolling through PFF's list for the pro days. So just someone to, again, just keeping the, stash away, keeping the back of your mind. Moving on, you already touched on this guy as your wide receiver 3. He's my wide receiver 2. That is Rashad Bateman. A disappointing weigh-in. No two ways around it. Minnesota had him listed at 6'2", 210. He comes in at 6 foot 190. So
did you see the tweet? His high school, someone tweeted this out. The high school had him at like 6'3" something. And then college, he was 6'2" something. And then the weigh-in now, it's 6 foot. And someone says, either this guy's the next, I forget the name, or he's Benjamin Buttons. I was like, okay, that's good.
But the wild thing is like, I was just taken aback by this because he does play like he's 6'2", 210. Like he has that alpha mentality. I'm not moving him because of that. Because again, same thing with someone like Rondell Moore. When I was watching him, I wasn't saying to myself like, man, I really hope he's actually 6'2". Like, no, you're watching him, plays like an alpha. He can play inside, outside. I wasn't going to move him, but it was still disappointing to see, right? Like, especially coming in at sub 200 pounds. Now, there was some stuff coming out that, I guess he actually had COVID.
Yeah.
And he said he wasn't the same physically. He does play closer to 200 pounds, but just wasn't the same after that. I guess has had, has kept the weight off to help him with his 40. He did run a sub 4.440 at his pro day, 86th percentile at 4.39. But just someone who I wasn't going to move because of it. But again, just still, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, I'm honestly not worried about the weight at all because exactly like you said, I think he kept that weight off for his 40 time.
Right.
We see this a lot where people fluctuate the weight or they fluctuate just to whatever they feel like their weakness is or something that scouts might hit on the mat. They've seen him perform as an alpha, but what about his speed? And he ran a 4.4 flat at the Exos combine. And so maybe he just wanted to show that he can get to that sub 4.4 number. And so I'm not worried about it. He does not play at 190. It doesn't look like he plays at 190. And so I think he puts that back on, and we saw what he could do at Minnesota.
Absolutely. 3 more names here to round this out. We just crossed the hour mark. So someone who plays bigger than what he's listed, but did not have the same Exos training time, and that is wide receiver Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State. 6 foot 194. Again, I thought he played, bigger than that, especially on the outside as that, back shoulder kind of go up and get it high point receiver that he, how he plays. I think he also had the sub 4.4 at the Exos training combine. Shouldn't have ran another one. It came out at the Oklahoma State Pro Day and ran a 4.48. I thought that's more along the lines of, his tape kind of speed. I think that was more in line that, that mid 4.4 versus the sub 4.4, what he did at Exos. But still, another one of these guys who, if he gets with the right team, I do really like him. I think he's another one of these receivers who's kind of just getting, lost in the shuffle because of how deep and how good this receiver class is. But, shouldn't have ran that second 40. Should have just kept with that, the sub 4.4 at the Exos.
Yeah, he's interesting, man. He's a guy I want to keep going back to because I'm not sure. I don't have a developed final thought on him because sometimes you watch him and you're like, oh, man, he snaps in and out of his routes really nicely, gets some separation, but then he also plays super weak and he can't get off of press and he gets pushed out of bounds and bullied around a little bit. So, I'm lukewarm on him right now. I'll have to continue watching to get a finalized thought, but yeah, he's a guy I've been up and down on a little bit.
Someone else who has been up and down, his teammate, running back Chuba Hubbard, came in at 6 foot 210. It's kind of what he's been listed at this entire time. 68th percentile vert, 58th percentile broad jump at 120 inches. we keep hearing about all this track speed. Came in at it. I mean, for all the track talk that we hear with him, little disappointing. It was a 4.48, not slow, but whenever everyone's talking about like how quick he is, and was a big international track star coming out of Canada. 70th percentile. So again, adjusted for the pro days, you're looking at a mid 4.5, which isn't bad. It's fine, but like comparing it to what I was expecting for Chuba, a little disappointing. And then his agility times were not great either. 4.26 short shuttle puts him in the 55th percentile, and then a 7.24 3 cone, which is 19th. Someone who I'm just kind of out on. I don't get it. I know me and you are kind of on the same page as far as like, again, that speed. Always hear about it, but he's like an airplane. He needs the runway to get going, to get up to speed. Like he doesn't have the burst like an Etienne. Like you're not going to see him just hit a hole and all of a sudden he's gone. Like he needs the runway to get going. And with all the interesting names at running back after the top three, I'm kind of just like putting Chuba on the back burner, and I'm not like not that I'm not considering him, but like I'm just like he's out there for me right now.
Yeah, pro Chuba individuals will need to listen to a different podcast than the TFA airwaves, because we're just all consensusly low on him compared to the rest of the mainstream. Like you said, I hear all about this track speed, and he's a speed guy, and this, that, and you see it in 2019 tape for sure. Yep, he's got some long speed, absolutely. But man, that, like, even for his calling card, right? I talked about having a trait. I don't think on tape it's really all that impressive, to be honest with you. And I'm not going to say that this one day of combine running backs all that up, but it didn't do anything to argue against the thoughts that I have that he just doesn't pop as an NFL running back speed guy, right? Like when I watch Javonte Williams and when I watch Michael Carter, they have pop. Travis Etienne, home run speed, right? Like I've seen it with some of these guys, and just comparing him to Chuba, I'm not there, you're not there. So I'd love to get somebody on that's pro, and we can have a little back and forth, because he's not going to be on any of my teams. He's going too high.
Let's round things out with another guy who's kind of, being, all over the place, talked about as like one of the sleepers in this class. Curious to get your thoughts on him, because I don't really know where you stand on him. That is Jamar Jefferson out of Oregon State. Came in at 6', 206. Again, another guy who had a disappointing pro day. These numbers don't match up with what I saw on tape. Like I thought, you want to talk about another home run hitter, someone who has burst and can, diagnose and get his way through, through the mess and the scrap there. But 10th percentile vertical, 25th percentile broad jump, only put up 13 reps on the bench, which I think outside of like offensive linemen, I don't understand why the bench is, one of these standard tests that we use, because like it doesn't, I don't know, doesn't really tell you anything for me anyway. But that was 8th percentile. A 4.55 40 puts him in the 46th percentile for a 40 there. And then the agility drills, 4.38 short shuttle, 28th percentile, and then a 7.38 3 cone, 8th percentile. So curious to get your thoughts on him. Like I don't think this is something that necessarily matches up, but where do you sit on Jamar Jefferson? Then we'll close this out.
Yeah, he was a guy that I dove into running backs pretty early on in my process, and he didn't have a lot of tape out there for me to watch. I'm not the guy that, pays for anything. I'm a YouTube watcher here, and he would house it on like every first carry he got in the 3 games that I watched. I think he ran literally the first 3 carries of each game to the house, and you do see him get up the hole really quickly. Now, that didn't show in his pro day, so that's where I'll agree with you there. I never thought he had a lot of strength. I mean, again, the bench press had strength, like it is what it is. But then the broad as well for that lower body kind of explosion kind of stuff. It was just kind of weird. I don't love Jamar Jefferson. I want to see more tape from him to maybe get me there. But the pro day kind of is meh. I'm not going to move him up or down there. But it's not anything for where if you're a Jamar Jefferson fan, you're like, oh, here's some more information on him of why he can be XYZ sleeper in this class. Because like you said, he's in this middling range. he's behind the Trey Sermon for me, but a lot of people have Trey Sermon, Jamar Jefferson, Kylan Hill, Chuba, kind of in that after the top 4 or 5 guys, after Gainwell as well. They're all in there, and I don't think he's done anything to vault him out of that conversation yet.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly that range that he's in for me as well, except without Chuba Hubbard. Chuba is not it's not part of that mix. But that is going to wrap things up. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you have made it this far, first of all, thank you. Second of all, hit us with a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. And we will be dropping this on the podcast feed as well. And I'll make sure whenever I go back, I'll put the link to Apple and Spotify in the description for the for part 1. So for myself, for Robby, for TFA, thank you for checking this out. And, make sure that you are tuned in because we have a lot more content coming. And before you know it, it's going to be redraft season. And let's get to the draft first. The draft is almost here. Let's enjoy that. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Kev.